about me first. I grew up in Virginia, all right? I had an awesome family and some really good times, but I went through some hard stuff too. Have you all ever been through hard stuff? All right, I had some hard stuff happen and some good stuff happen. And I handled the good stuff well, but I didn't handle the hard stuff really well. And sometimes in life we get choices, right? Right? Do you all ever have choices? Okay, well I made some bad decisions and had some hard stuff happen. So I went through some pretty tough stuff for a while in my life. All right, and I want to tell you that, you guys, because some of you might have choices along the way between making good decisions and making bad decisions. And some of my decisions were good, like I got a great education. That was a good decision. But I made some bad decisions and made some wrong choices. Now, do you all think I liked dogs when I was a little girl?
Yeah.
No, I had a dog, and one of the bad decisions I made was I didn't take really good care of her, and I didn't take very good care of myself. And I started to grow up, and eventually I became an adult. And you know what? I probably didn't become the adult at the beginning that I really was supposed to be because of some of the decisions and some of the hard stuff that happened to me. Do you get that part? All right? But, you know what? I found something that changed my whole life. Can anyone raise their hand and tell me what they think that might be? No idea, right? Okay, what? What do you think changed my life?
Taking care of doggies.
Well, you know what? Before that happened, something else happened. And what it was I found a relationship with God. And when God came into my heart and Jesus came into my heart, my life completely changed. And you know what? Ever since I was a little girl, and I bet some of you can identify with this, I really wanted to give. I really wanted to do good things. And I had a really, really big heart. But you know what? When I was a little girl, I didn't really know what to give because I didn't really have the right things to give because I wasn't making the right decisions all the time. But when I got my relationship with Jesus, I started to make the right decisions. And you know what? One of the things that happened is these homeless dogs started coming into my life. I just sort of ran into them. Literally, I just saw these homeless dogs. And once again, I saw something that needed help. And you know what? We live in a world where there is a lot of help needed. Do you all know that? Everywhere you look, it might be a friend, it might be a family member, it might be an animal, it might be a homeless person, but everywhere you look, there's somebody or something in need. But my problem was I always knew that there was a world that needed help, but I didn't have the right thing to give. But once I found God and my relationship with God, I started to have the right heart, the right attitude, and the right thing to give, which was God and the things that people needed or the things that animals needed. Now I'm going to tell you Red's story, okay, and a little bit about these two doggy stories. First of all, Winnie was run over by a train and doesn't have back feet. But she's doing awesome. She's a super happy dog. Laurie was in an animal shelter where they were going to put her to sleep so that she wouldn't live anymore because they didn't have enough room, and she was very, very sick, and she was blind. And she's still blind, but she's doing awesome. And look what? She got a miracle. She got a miracle. And let me tell you his story. He got a really, really, really big, big miracle because Red was found on the side of the road getting ready to die. He was so sick. He was skin and bones, and he was covered in mange, and he had an eye infection, ear infection, heartworm, and pneumonia, and he was so close to dying that there were buzzards up on the tree branch getting ready to eat him. Or maybe they were going to eat the stuff that he was eating on the side of the road. But to make a long story short, the animal shelter said to me, Lara, you cannot take this dog out of the shelter. We are putting him to sleep. He is very sick. He's at the end of his life, and do not interfere. But you know what? I had my relationship with God by then, and I heard God speak to me, and he said that I needed to pray for this dog. And when I started to pray for him, guess what?
He got better.
God said, well, before that happened, God said, go inside that dog pen and pray for him. And I said, God, what are you talking about? I'm already praying for him. But you know what? God wanted me in that dog pen for a reason, and when God tells us to do something, we need to do it. And I went inside, and I knew that dog was meant to live, and you are never going to believe what happened next. And this will give you a real big message about a world in need. a few hours after I took him out of the animal shelter, there was a homeless man on the street, and he came up to us, and he was attracted to the dog. And we started talking, and I invited that man to my church that night, and he came, and I thought, well, that's wild. I didn't expect him to come, but he came. And after a little while, the homeless man said, I need to go sleep now. I'm going to go down by the river. And it was a cold night, and I had an extra coat in the car. I said, come to my car and get that coat. So he came to my car, and on the way, he told me his story, and he said that he was in Vietnam, where there was war, and there was a gun, and he was shot. And he said, God saved my life so I could see my wife again. But you know what? When he came back to America, his wife and 2 of his children got in the car, and there was a very bad accident because she made a very bad decision. And you know what? They all died. And the day that I met this man, which was the same day that I took Red out of the animal shelter, that man was thinking that he might want to end his life and not live anymore. He was thinking of jumping in the river, and he said he was walking down the street, and he said, I heard God speak to me, and he said, turn around and go talk to that woman with that dog. And he said, never in a million years did I think the answer would come in the form of a mangy dog. And I want to tell you, I'm going to be honest. Can you handle some honesty? Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm 43 years old now, but before I turned 43, when I made some bad decisions, I'll tell you some of the things I did. I drank alcohol, and that was not a good thing. And I had an eating disorder. I didn't eat enough, and that was not a good thing. And I did other things to harm myself, and I got involved with some people I wasn't supposed to be involved with. I did other destructive things to myself, and even though I had an awesome education and went to an Ivy League school, I ended up a real mess. And a long time ago, I made the same decision, or I had the same thoughts that that man had. I thought maybe I would end my life, but you know what? God gave me my life, and he saved my life. And you know what? After he saved my life, he brought me to this homeless dog, and he used me, just like he can use you, to save his life. Look how healthy he is today. And then he took me, and he took this homeless dog, and he took us to a homeless man, and you know what he did? He helped save that man's life. Because that man got hope when he saw us. And about 8 months later, I got a chance to run into that homeless man again, and we prayed together. And you know what? Ever since, God has used me and this dog and what now is Walk by Faith Ministry to help a world in need. And some people think we only help dogs, but we don't. We help anybody who needs help. And that might just be a woman who's sad. It might be a little girl who needs a smile. It might be a homeless man that needs some clothes, or it might be a dog that needs a home. But I still have a heart to give and a desire to give. But I want to tell you something, y'all. Have you ever had a desire to help somebody or something in need? All right. Well, you know what? When God came into my life and he gave me a new heart, he put his heart in me. But my heart, the heart he gave me, it got pretty hard and tough around the edges. And I wasn't very nice. And sometimes still, I'm not very nice. And you know what? God said, I want to use that heart I gave you. He didn't really say that, but if he did speak, that's what he would say. And you know what? I study my Bible, and I do the things I'm supposed to do. And when I mess up, I say, please, God, forgive me. And I go to my friends, and I say, please forgive me. And now God is softening my heart. You know why? Because he wants to use my heart, and he wants to use your hearts too. Because we have a world that has a lot of problems. But you know what? We have what's needed to help the world with the problems that the world has. Number one, we have God and Jesus Christ, and that's number one. And number two, we have the ability with our hands and our hearts and our feet to help, don't we? Have you ever helped a homeless person? Have you ever helped a homeless animal? Have you ever helped a friend? Do you know that you could find the things that you love to do, just like I'm finding the things that I love to do?